Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special spotlight segment here on FTN. My name is Paul. Of course, I'm joined by Jules German. Jules, welcome to the show.
Hi, Paul. Thanks very much for having me.
Jules, you're from Weta Workshop. If people could not tell by this, the absolute spectacular things surrounding you in frame right now. So it's a very much a pleasure to talk to you, and I want to talk to you about the Warhammer collaborations. I want to talk about you and your creative process. I want to know about the team behind this stuff. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, thanks, Paul. It's Friday here in New Zealand, so we're almost at the weekend.
Yeah, one more day, but thanks for carving out time for me. I really appreciate it. And we met each other at the finale for the World Championships of Warhammer. So it was back then as the Open Series in Atlanta. What, almost 2 years ago at this point, a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
where you unveiled the Captain Titus statue. And I say statue, like I think that you can see a piece of it right there. Like it's
Yeah.
massive. Um, and that was like I think the first burst onto the scene with some of this Warhammer stuff. And can you tell me a little bit about it?
Absolutely. So we got once we'd established a relationship or a professional relationship with Games Workshop, and we had permission to render some of their characters. Around that time, of course, so AOS or 40k, and we wanted to do 40k first, and then around that time the Space Marine 2 video game was in the works. Games Workshop were kind enough to sort of put us in touch with Saber, so we had a little bit of a peek behind the scenes that perhaps some other people might not have had access to. And with the love and the sort of poster boy, the Ultramarines, man, like, so
Yeah.
we had the deep love of the Ultramarines from the community, and then the fact that we had Space Marine 2 coming out, it just seemed like an absolute no-brainer that Lieutenant Titus should be our first character.
Well, I mean, truly spectacular. Blew everyone away. The look on the faces of everyone they've seen it, and people that have seen it since, may only be surpassed by the statue on your other flank there. That people could see creeping in, just the enormity of these things with Abaddon, the Despoiler,
Yeah.
and as someone who has also seen these things up close and personal, I can tell like the love and care that went into their design. Can you tell me, are y'all Warhammer fans as well?
Oh my God, yes, of course. There's a huge amount of love and deep passion for Warhammer here at Weta Workshop. Myself, I got introduced to Warhammer when I was 10 years old. I mean, I still remember the moment. It was an undead army my friend had. It just blew my mind, and I've been hanging out with them ever since. Like, still to this day, if I get time, I paint or build Warhammer most days of my life. And then I'm surrounded by people here at the workshop that have a similar experience. So it's a very, very close-knit sort of relationship we have with this property. So it was an incredibly exciting day when we got to tell people that we're actually allowed to make some of these characters and play in this sandbox.
I know we kind of talked about the origin of Titus, and we've seen some other things like this in front of you here with the helmets, and that's actually Titus's an alternate Titus head that comes
Yeah.
with the statue there in front of you. I think it's amazing that it's in also seemingly is in the same scale as the helmets that you have available as
The,
well.
the helmets are technically unscaled. The statues are 1/6 scale, and then the helmets are unscaled. And we did that because we try and keep them so they look good together. But because of the huge size variation of characters within the Warhammer worlds, between AOS and 40k, we wanted the helm collection that, should people want to collect multiples of them, that there would be a unified cohesion across the range. So we try and scale them like a larger character's helmet will be larger than, say, a smaller character's helmet, like a dwarf. But the helmets are technically unscaled, whereas the statues are 1/6 scale.
That attention to detail just blew my mind as far as like also the aesthetics of it, which are of course very important. And again, we'll talk about the just the gloriousness of them and how cool they are. It's like when you're holding them in your hand, like these are things that would look great on your shelf next to your army, just as on your desk at work and stuff like that. But can you tell me about the design of them? Because they are, you're looking at the property of established, like people know what to expect when they look at it. How do you capture that and then kind of bring it to life in y'all's format?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a complicated. Well, it's not complicated. It's a we really pour ourselves into it and sort of tend to perhaps overthink this, if that's possible with what we do. So once we've decided on a character, and that's a exchange and a collaboration with Games Workshop, and we go back and forth on what we'd like to represent and what they would like us to represent. Then we just pour into research, and like because we're genuine fans of this, we have the models and we've been reading the books and we generally do know. But then when you really start digging into it, a whole lot of questions arise. Like we try and make our stuff like it could exist, that this armor, these characters could actually function and walk and fight across a battlefield or do whatever they're doing. So we end up in minutiae, like how does a Space Marine's boot actually work? Like if his foot's going to pivot up because he's running, how do the plates interact with each other? Where do the rivets join? So it ends up being a really like a study of functionality. And then because this is the really fun bit for me, I think, that because of the scale when these things are so large, we can go to town with the detail, like what the texture of the ceramite, if it's ceramite. How old is the metal on Abaddon's armor? So if it's it's 10,000 years old, what does that look like? And so we go as far down the rabbit hole as time and money will allow us to, and really, really pull it. It becomes a technical exercise. Like, what is this material? What's its function? What conditions, atmospheric conditions, has it been exposed to? So we try and bring to it is this could work. This Abaddon's armor, it could work. Abaddon is a real being. So we try and that's our aesthetic, is trying to drag it into a feasible reality, of a viable existence.
I love that. And you mentioned the team and y'all and being fans. Is that something that's a common thread between the people that are working on this project? Were they fans of Warhammer before, and then how that impacts the product?
Oh, absolutely. Like there's a lot to say on that subject matter. Like we've got Daniel Kokosau, a sort of head sculptor. He actually used to work for Forge World. We've got Gary Hunt, another Englishman who he's been sculpting minis for decades. Myself, Leonard Ellis, there's all of us have been like fanboying out and fangirling out in some cases with Games Workshop, literally for decades. And then when we got the permission and all the legalities were done so we could work, I just literally went around all the departments in the company and said, we've got Games Workshop, we've got Warhammer. And the reaction was amazing. Like it's immediately people started saying, we've got to do this faction, we've got to do this faction. I don't care what anyone else says, we have to do this faction. So the faction is real. And then whenever possible here at Weta Workshop, we try and work on projects that the artists want to, because there is, like, I really do believe there is something, if someone's genuinely engaged and passionate about a project, there is something intangible that carries through to the finished product. And I don't know, I've never known exactly what it is, but if there is a genuine passion and engagement with a subject matter, that the end product is stronger.
I can feel that, and you can see that in the stuff that we've seen so far. Can you tell me? We just jumped into it. Would you mind telling me a little bit about yourself? Like how long you've been with Weta? What you were doing before, and what got you on this path?
Sure. Well, like I've always been creative. My mother used to joke I came into the world holding a crayon. And then I've been at Weta Workshop. I'm in my 11th year. I came here. I was actually a screen printer for a long time. Screen printing posters, T-shirts, all of that sort of stuff. I've always worked in the creative industries. When I came to Weta, I sort of bounced around departments for a bit. I was a model maker. Like I've always been super keen on building models, and particularly Warhammer, but really anything I could get my hands on. I ran the painting if I'm on tools, I'm a painter. I ran the paint department for a while, and then I always loved the collectibles. And that sort of goes back to the model building aspect of me. And eventually a role sort of came up as creative director for our collectibles division. And I just threw my hat in the ring and argued very strongly it should be me.
Well, I mean, it seems like a particular set of like skills and passions all coming together into that,
Yeah, I feel
that fit.
like it sounds a bit cheesy, but I do feel blessed. I feel like I ended up where I really wanted to end up or wanted to be.
Oh, but no, I mean that's great. Not everyone can say that, and then being able to work on these different things. How do you? I guess do you in your mind compartmentalize like the different genres or fandoms and stuff, or is there compartmentalize, or like how do you make such great things in different areas?
That's a really good question. The They do get compartmentalized, but maybe not in the way you'd think. Like the when we start a thing, so that it has to come, I think, from love and knowledge and engagement. But what isn't, so the creative process is pretty similar, and the mechanical process of sculpting, molding, casting, painting, that's pretty similar. What does change and is different is the fandoms are quite different. Like the Lord of the Rings fans, where we've been in that space for a long time, are quite different from other fan groups. And like Warhammer fandoms, which they're quite different too. Like one group of people might be a lot more orthodox, and so the lore is very, very important. And so you have to almost, like Lord of the Rings and Middle Earth, it's a history for that group. Like it's a pseudo history. So you have to be respectful of that, and you have the lore is important. I'm trying to find my words. So it's like it actually happened, so you can't change what happened.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas Warhammer's a bit more fluid because that lore, it's sort of been invented as it goes along, and some of the connecting threads are maybe a bit more tenuous or vague. So the attention to detail with Warhammer is a different sort of, the focus is slightly different than it might be with Middle Earth. And then other fandoms, they just have their unique qualities. And because we're doing it, if the fans don't respond, then we've failed our job. Like if we're not elevating or hopefully elevating characters or these worlds, then we've failed. So really the compartmentalization is just trying to be aware of what people expect and what they want. And obviously we'd like to challenge that in some places, like maybe raise the bar if that's possible. But yeah, they are different. It's quite interesting, actually.
So you get in there, if I can paraphrase slightly, is like you get in there and live in whatever that property is, and also consider what the people that experience that property are wanting and what they expect.
Yeah, I think it's a massive privilege to get to do what we do. Like I think there's stories, like on one hand you can say it's make believe and it's nonsense, but I think that the myths and the legends I think that's a really vital part of humanity. I think they're really important. like their morality tales. They're way more than just escapism for us. So it's a privilege to get to play in these areas. So I think you do have to live it. You have to throw yourself in and immerse yourself in this stuff, because I feel like if you didn't do that, you're not worthy to have a crack at it. It can't be a casual interaction. It has to be an extreme one.
I love that respect. Is basically what I'm hearing from you, is the ultimate respect for what you're doing and what the fans want, and then also what the property intends and how
Yeah.
it is. Like that's really nice to hear. You did talk briefly about the process of the design, the origin, the research, the work, and I'm sure I'm leaving out several steps, but can you tell me about like the life cycle of an idea, of where it be, does it jump from the paper to the thing you can hold in your hand, and what happens in between?
All right. So everything starts with a conversation. I'll keep it to Warhammer. So Games Workshop and Weta Workshop, we have regular catch-ups and meetings. There's a constant barrage of emails going back and forth where we'll decide a character, and there's different ways to approach that. Like everyone's got their favorite faction, right? Like I love Nurgle. And the Chaos factions for me are great. Other people love Tau. Some people love Space Marines or the Orcs.
I love those debates between players, and
Oh yeah.
just people that love the lore. Like you can have like a really crazy spirited debates, and I love that about this game.
Oh, it's so much fun, man. Like I love it, So once we've got a character, we'll start the design process, and because they exist, like a lot of that work's been done. We'll even scan Games Workshop or Warhammer models, because then, like, even though they're small and the detail is perfect for the little ones, but when we blow it up, we have to introduce stuff. But we can get proportions, anatomy. That there's so much great information in the minis. We'll scan them, blow them up, and pose it and put it in an environment. So with Abaddon, we chose a pose. This one was like really based on a really well-known, famous painting of Abaddon. We'll flick either a 2D concept, like a digital painting, to Games Workshop, and at these early stages, we're kind of just asking for pose and environment. So with Abaddon, like, can we have him with the sword held aloft in a snowy environment? With Titus, can we have him stomping on a Tyranid in a, like, similar to the environment we saw in the first Space Marine 2 trailer of like a ruined Imperial city? Then once they've given a tick for that, we go into detailing. All of the Warhammer sculpts, with the exception of Scragrot, have been digital sculpts. And so we'll just start sculpting, and we send Games Workshop, if we finish a pauldron or a glove, we'll just send that to them and go, does this look okay? Then eventually we'll assemble it. And we just go through a series of approvals. Then once we've got them, we'll 3D print them. Then we'll clean up the 3D prints. Then we make molds and we cast them. Then once we've cast them, we'll paint them. With paint, we go through a new series of approvals. With Warhammer, it's quite easier than some other properties because of the Citadel paint range. Like, all the colors, they're already there. And I get asked this, like when I meet you at conventions and events, people ask if we use Citadel paints, and we do. For the Warhammer stuff, we do. So the colors are the colors.
Oh, that's awesome. So up to this point, what is the timeline? Like, how long does it take for each phase of this? And I know it may be different lengths of time depending on the subject matter, but an average amount.
Generally speaking, it's 1 year from concept to a product being able to be purchased.
Got it. I know it's a ton of work. And how large is the team? Like, how many people are doing this?
Far out. So that varies. I have 12 sculptors on my team. The paint team is 6 people. The mold and casting team are about 7 people. We have a cleanup team. It's sort of a small army, or a battalion at least, to do this. Then there's legal, there's production managers. There's a legal aspect to it, just making sure that everyone's obeying the rules of various contracts. So all
licensing
in all,
is licensing. It's a
yeah, licensing, right? It's probably 50 people all up. Now, not all 50 of those people might directly touch each project, but there'd be around 50 people to keep this boat in the right direction.
That's so cool. I mean, y'all are truly producing like heirloom quality things. As someone, again, I can't say it enough. I've been able to physically behold these things, and everywhere you look, every time you look, you can see something new and different on the model or on the statue. And
Yeah, we try.
yeah, it's super intentional and deliberate, and it seems like a lot of love goes into this, and that's coming out in what you're saying as well.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's not. We don't do this lightly. It is a serious undertaking to us, and that we wouldn't do it if we didn't believe in it. And that might sound a little pretentious, but it it is true. Like, we do really love this, and we want other people to love it as well.
That's so really great to hear, and I think I do think it comes out, and even talking with you over these last interactions at the conventions and stuff, the opens and every place, so I can feel that. And now also, you mentioned that you are a Warhammer player, and so what are some projects? You say you paint a lot and model a lot. What are some of the things that you're working on right now, Warhammer related?
Oh, my big one is Armies on Parade. I've never entered. I do many of the month. Every month, my daughter and I do many of the month. Like, I'm a super regular at my local store, but I've never entered Armies on Parade due to time, discipline, all of the things. I'm assembling I have an AOS Nurgle army. It's heavily converted. I'd have probably multiples of every Nurgle model, I would think, at this stage. There can't really be many I don't have. And I'm building it's 2.5 feet tall at this point, a Nurgle army sort of coming through a portal down a spiral staircase to ravage old, what are the Stormcast cities called? That sort of landscape anyway, the sort of Stormcast, an old Stormcast fort.
That sounds pretty spectacular.
Yeah, it's getting, as soon as I finally said I'll do it, I'll enter Armies on Parade, that it became more and more ambitious as I went along, and so it's getting bigger.
Oh, well, I will say though, it's kind of nice to hear that even the super creative types struggle with the same things us mere mortals do, which is the time and the motivation to get it done, and to even start. But now, once you've started, are you going to get it done? And what's your deadline?
It was going to be this year. This is going to sound terrible. I don't think I'll get it done for this year. It'll certainly be done for next year, though. I keep getting because many of the month will take me. I try really hard with my painting. I'm pretty slow, man. But I don't want to stop many of the month, because it's a great, it's a great interaction with my local community, and my daughter is starting to get really into it too. So
that's fun.
It's just divvying up the time. But yeah, generally speaking, if I do get spare time, for me, it's Warhammer. I love it.
I'll ask you this, and maybe we can connect again in the future as you get further along with this Armies on Parade project. But do you have like a big centerpiece or something? Like, not to spoil anything?
I've got a great unclean one at the very top, and then he's surrounded by Nurglings that are kind of having a dance party. I've converted some of the Nurgle. Some of the plague bearers are playing flutes. So I've got the centerpiece is the great unclean one, which I've really heavily converted. He's got a massive bell of Nurgle. I made his horns way, way longer and taller, and there's a big bell swinging between them, which is driving him mad. And then he's surrounded by Nurglings that are all dancing on top of a portal which one of the older models. I've had to scourge the second-hand market. Like I've bought a lot of terrain from the Warhammer stuff that they don't make as much of it now, or some of the older kits that aren't around anymore. I've managed to find them. So the centerpiece is the Great Unclean One, and then down below, as you go down the staircase, there's a small township or a city. There's a lot of buildings and terrain in my piece, so it's pretty busy.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. Well, Jules, thanks a lot for coming on and sharing some of stuff, information about yourself, the creative process, and just the relationship between Weta and Games Workshop. I really appreciate the time. Hopefully, we can connect again in the future and learn more. Especially as we get to see more of the things as they come out. I'm really looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
I promise you guys, there's a lot more stuff coming, which I can't talk about at the moment.
I will not press you, will not twist your arm, but I am excited to see it. Well, Jules, have a great rest of your day and have a great weekend, and we'll talk again real soon.
Hey, thanks, Paul.